At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, D.C., where we just can't stop renaming things, this is Ballot.
That's why this show is now called the Joe Rogan Experience. Let's hit this. Speaking of Joe, the Liver King got arrested in Austin Tuesday for allegedly making terroristic threats against Joe Rogan, which proves that eating raw organs doesn't necessarily improve your decision-making skills. Brian Johnson, that's the Liver King's real name, though I assume Raw Meat Brian was already taken, posted a series of Instagram videos challenging Rogan to a fight while traveling to Austin. He was booked on a Class B misdemeanor charge after police reviewed his posts and contacted Rogan, who said he'd never even interacted with Johnson, but found the videos threatening. The whole thing started back in 2022, when Rogan mocked Johnson's claim that his massive physique came from eating raw liver instead of the $11,000 per month he was secretly spending on steroids, according to the joke. When that little detail leaked, Johnson had to admit he wasn't actually getting jacked from organ meat alone. Shocking revelation there. Now, Johnson's been making videos while shirtless and wearing a wolf head hat, which is exactly the kind of accessory choice that screams mentally stable person making rational decisions. In one video, he told Rogan, "You can hold the hand of somebody that you love, because what happens next to you, you're going to need to remember that feeling." Johnson documented his whole journey to Austin like he was some kind of primitive warrior on a quest, telling Rogan he had no training in jiu-jitsu, but was willing to die and hoped Rogan would choke him out because it feels good. This man went from selling people on eating raw meat to having elaborate fantasies about getting strangled by a podcast host. Police found Johnson at the Four Seasons. Nothing says ancestral lifestyle like luxury hotel accommodations, where he was arrested while his family watched. His final Instagram video shows him getting handcuffed, which is probably not the kind of content his 2.9 million followers signed up for. President Trump wants to rename the Defense Department back to the War Department because apparently defense sounds too much like a participation trophy. Trump made this announcement after describing how B-2 stealth bombers flew 36 hours round trip from Missouri to bomb Iranian nuclear facilities, which he called a great victory. Now he's thinking maybe we should rebrand the whole military while we're on a roll. The president told reporters at a NATO meeting that the old name is still visible on a wall in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, and he introduced Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth as Secretary of State and Secretary of War. Trump explained that we became politically correct when we switched to Defense Department in 1949. So let me get this straight. We're going to change the name from Defense Department to War Department because defense is too soft. What's next? Renaming the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Sickness and Suffering? The Department of Education becomes the Department of Not Knowing Things? This is like when your dad insists on calling it the remote control instead of the clicker, because that's what they called it in his day. Except instead of arguing about television terminology, we're talking about the largest military in the world. And apparently, this brilliant rebranding idea came to him right after bombing Iran. Nothing says let's think strategically about government nomenclature quite like the adrenaline rush from a successful military operation. That's prime decision-making time right there. The Defense Department has been called the Defense Department since 1949, when Congress consolidated the Army, Navy, and Air Force departments. But sure, let's change it back because the word defense makes us sound like we're playing zone coverage in basketball instead of running the most powerful military on Earth.
What happens when one of the most powerful men in music is accused of some of the most serious crimes imaginable? Check out the new podcast, Diddy, Did He Do It? Following the federal sex crimes trial of Sean Diddy Combs, coming to you straight from New York City. Every day I'll take you inside the courtroom where prosecutors say Combs ran a criminal enterprise of sex trafficking, coercion, and abuse. Using his fame, fortune, and influence to silence victims and control lives, we'll cover the big stories and the small moments that can shift the verdict. The trial has begun. The questions are piling up, and every day we'll be asking the same thing. Did he do it? Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years, and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe stepped up Wednesday to clarify that Iran's nuclear program wasn't just damaged, it was basically sent back to the Stone Age. This comes after some initial reports suggested the bombing only set Iran back a few months, which apparently didn't sit well with the White House. Ratcliffe issued a statement saying they've got credible evidence that Iran's nuclear facilities were destroyed and would need to be rebuilt over the course of years. Meanwhile, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard jumped on X to back him up, posting that new intelligence confirms the facilities were destroyed. So we went from maybe a few months to definitely several years in about 24 hours. That's quite the intelligence upgrade. Either our spy satellites needed new glasses, or someone got a very stern talking to about their initial assessment. The Defense Intelligence Agency originally said the strikes might only delay Iran's nuclear program by months. The White House called that assessment wrong, which is diplomatic speak for "that's not the answer we were looking for, try again." President Trump has been saying the strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities, and now suddenly everyone's intelligence is lining up perfectly with that statement. What are the odds? Gabbard's tweet mentioned that Iran would have to rebuild all 3 facilities, Natanz, Fordo, and Esfahan, entirely. She didn't provide evidence, but she did use all caps for POTUS, so you know she's serious. This is like when you're in school and the teacher asks who broke the window, and initially someone says maybe it was the wind. But then after a stern look, suddenly everyone remembers it was definitely a baseball from 3 towns over. Portions of today's show were made with the help of AI, the JRE, and the Liver King.
When the world's most powerful people go to war, we can't look away. Welcome to Feuds, Power, Pride, and Payback, the podcast tracking the explosive conflicts shaping our world right now. Presidential administrations fracturing, tech billionaires threatening government leaders, entertainment titans destroying partnerships with single social media posts. These aren't just headlines. They're windows into how power really works. We deliver daily episodes when news explodes, weekly deep dives for perspective. From Washington power struggles to Silicon Valley vendettas, we decode the psychology behind the drama and reveal why these feuds matter far beyond entertainment. Feuds, Power, Pride, and Payback. Today's conflicts are tomorrow's history. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
You know the silhouette, the squint, the voice that cuts like a blade. Clint Eastwood isn't just a movie star, he's a myth, a mayor, a cultural fault line, and maybe the last great American icon. Eastwood Reloaded tells his story one chapter at a time. The hits, the flops, the chaos between the scenes. Because legends aren't born, they're built. Eastwood Reloaded. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Marcus Cole. I coordinated operations you'll never read about. January 2018. Tehran. We stole Iran's nuclear secrets from a warehouse in 6 hours. That heist began 7 years of shadow war that ended with Operation Rising Lion and a new podcast from Calaroga Shark Media. My brother died in 2002. I've been carrying his dog tags and calculating impossible decisions ever since, trading lives like variables in an equation. Every operation saves some people by destroying others. I keep a private file of everyone who died because of missions I planned. Their names, their families, their dreams I helped destroy. This is the story of how we prevented nuclear war and what it cost us to become the monsters who saved the world. Operation Rising Lion, the new podcast from Calaroga Shark Media, available wherever you get your podcasts.